Marcus sat in his car outside their home, the divorce papers folded in his jacket pocket, feeling heavier than they should. 3 months had passed since he discovered the text messages on Sarah's phone, messages that shattered 8 years of marriage in an instant. The affair with her colleague Derek had been going on for 6 months, and the betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound ever could. He remembered that night vividly. Sarah had been in the shower, her phone buzzing incessantly on the nightstand. Thinking it might be an emergency, Marcus had glanced at the screen. The preview message made his blood run cold. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Last night was incredible." The sender was simply labeled D. The confrontation that followed was explosive. Sarah had crumbled immediately, tears streaming down her face as she confessed everything. She swore it was over, that Derek meant nothing, that it was a terrible mistake born from feeling neglected during Marcus's promotion at work. She begged for forgiveness, for a chance to rebuild what they'd had. Marcus had wanted to believe her. He'd wanted to believe that their marriage, the life they'd built together, the dreams they'd shared, was worth salvaging. But trust, once shattered, was nearly impossible to piece back together. Every time she picked up her phone, every time she came home late from work, doubt gnawed at him. The woman he'd loved had become a stranger wearing a familiar face. Tonight was supposed to be the night. He'd made an appointment with a divorce attorney for tomorrow morning. The papers were drawn up, waiting only for his signature. He just needed to go inside and tell her it was over. No more second chances, no more false hope. Just a clean break and the opportunity to start healing. But as Marcus sat there, gathering his courage, he heard voices from the open living room window. Sarah was on the phone with her friends, her weekly video call with college girlfriends. He hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but something in her tone made him pause. "I know what I did was unforgivable," Sarah's voice drifted out, heavy with emotion. "I see the way Marcus looks at me now, and it kills me. There's this distance in his eyes that wasn't there before." "Maybe you should just let him go," one of her friends suggested. "If he can't forgive you." "No," Sarah interrupted sharply. "You don't understand. Marcus is the best man I've ever known. When my mother was dying, he took time off work to drive me to the hospital every single day for 2 months. He held me while I cried, never once complaining about the sleep he was losing or the promotion he might miss." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He remembered those dark days, seeing Sarah's pain and wishing he could absorb it himself. "He's brilliant at his job," Sarah continued, "but he never lets it make him arrogant. He remembers our anniversary, my favorite flowers, how I like my coffee. He still leaves little notes in my lunch bag even after everything I did. Do you know how rare that is? How rare he is." "Then why did you cheat?" another friend asked bluntly. The silence stretched for a long moment. "Because I'm an idiot," Sarah finally said, her voice breaking. "Because I was selfish and stupid and I took something precious for granted. Derek was just there, paying attention when I felt invisible. But it was all surface level, meaningless. Marcus is depth. His substance. His home. And I threw that away for what? Empty compliments and cheap thrills." Marcus heard her start to cry. "I would give anything, to take it back. To make him trust me again. I know I don't deserve another chance, but God, I wish I could prove to him that I'm not that person anymore. That I've learned my lesson in the most painful way possible." "What will you do if he leaves?" someone asked gently. "Let him go," Sarah whispered. "If that's what he needs to be happy, I'll let him go. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You put their peace above your own desires. I wish I'd realized what I had before I destroyed it." Marcus sat frozen in his car, tears streaming down his face, the divorce papers burning a hole in his pocket. For the first time in 3 months, doubt crept in, not about her betrayal, but about his decision to end everything. Maybe, just maybe, there was still something worth fighting for. Marcus didn't go inside that night. Instead, he drove aimlessly through the city streets, his mind a battlefield of conflicting emotions. Sarah's words echoed in his head, colliding with the memory of those devastating text messages. By the time he returned home at midnight, the house was dark. He found Sarah asleep on the couch, her phone still in her hand, dried tears on her cheeks. He carried her to bed, just like he used to after she'd fall asleep during movie nights. Old habits died hard. The next morning, Marcus cancelled his appointment with the attorney. He didn't mention it to Sarah, didn't explain why he seemed slightly less cold over breakfast. He just watched her, really watched her, looking for signs of the woman he'd married beneath the stranger who'd betrayed him. "I'm thinking about counseling," Sarah said suddenly, not meeting his eyes. "For myself. To figure out why I sabotaged the best thing in my life. I'm not asking you to come with me. I just thought you should know." It was a start. A small one, but a start nonetheless. Over the following weeks, something shifted. Sarah began seeing a therapist twice a week. She gave Marcus complete access to her phone, her email, her social media, everything. She'd changed jobs, transferring to a different department to avoid any contact with Derek. She came home straight after work, never made plans without including him, and slowly, painfully, began the process of earning back his trust. Marcus watched it all with cautious hope. The cynic in him said it was all an act, that people didn't really change. But the part of him that had loved her since they were 23 years old whispered that maybe, just maybe, this time was different. They started going on dates again, awkward at first, like two strangers trying to find common ground. They'd walk through the botanical gardens where Marcus had proposed, sit in their favorite coffee shop, attempt to rebuild the connection that betrayal had severed. Some nights were good, filled with genuine laughter and glimpses of who they used to be. Other nights, the weight of what happened would crash down, leaving them in uncomfortable silence. "I'm trying," Sarah said one evening, tears in her eyes as they sat on their back porch. "I know it's not enough, and I know I don't deserve your patience, but I'm trying so hard to be worthy of you again." Marcus took her hand, the first time he'd initiated physical contact in months. "I can see that," he admitted. "I'm trying too. This isn't easy for me, Sarah. Trusting you again feels like walking on broken glass." "I know," she whispered. "I broke something precious, and I hate myself for it every single day." They decided to try couples counseling. Dr. Patricia Chen was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who didn't let them hide behind pleasantries. She made them confront the ugly truths: Marcus's workaholic tendencies that had left Sarah feeling lonely, Sarah's unwillingness to communicate her needs until she sought validation elsewhere, the slow erosion of intimacy that neither had acknowledged until it was too late. "Infidelity is rarely just about sex," Dr. Chen explained during one session. "It's usually a symptom of deeper issues in the relationship. That doesn't excuse it," she added, looking at Sarah, "but understanding the why can help prevent it from happening again." Marcus found himself opening up about things he'd never voiced: his fear of failure, his need to prove himself at work, his assumption that Sarah would always just be there, unshakable. Sarah talked about feeling like a background character in her own life, how Derek's attention had been a drug that made her feel seen again, even though it was built on deception and betrayal. Slowly, they began to reconnect. Not as the couple they'd been before, that version was gone forever, but as something new. Something forged in the fire of betrayal and the hard work of recovery. Marcus surprised Sarah with her favorite takeout. She left work early to meet him for lunch. They started holding hands again, then kissing goodnight, then more. For months after Marcus had sat in his car with divorce papers in his pocket, he and Sarah made love for the first time since the affair. It was different, raw and emotional and tinged with sadness, but also beautiful in its honesty. Afterwards, Sarah cried in his arms. "I love you," she said. "I never stopped, even when I was at my worst. I love you so much it hurts." "I love you too," Marcus replied, surprised to find he meant it. The love had changed, become more complex and scarred, but it was still there, stubborn and resilient. "We're going to be okay." Sarah kissed him softly. "We're going to be better than okay. I promise you, Marcus. I will spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice." That night, Marcus slept peacefully for the first time in months, his wife curled against him, her steady breathing a comfort. He believed they'd turned a corner. He believed the worst was behind them. He believed her promises. He had no idea that the nightmare was just beginning. 3 months of peace. 3 months of rebuilding, of cautious optimism, of believing that their marriage had survived its darkest hour and emerged stronger. Marcus had finally put away the divorce papers, filed them in the bottom of his desk drawer like artifacts from a different life, a life he was grateful they'd avoided. It was a Saturday morning when everything fell apart again. Sarah had gone to yoga class, something she'd started as part of her new beginning. Marcus was doing laundry, a mundane domestic task that felt almost meditative in its simplicity. As he transferred clothes from the washer to the dryer, Sarah's phone fell out of her jacket pocket. The screen lit up with the impact, revealing a notification. Marcus glanced at it reflexively, not snooping, just making sure the phone wasn't damaged. His blood turned to ice. The message preview read, "Babe, last night was amazing. When can I see you again?" The sender was listed as J. Yoga. Marcus stood frozen, the wet laundry forgotten in his hands, water dripping onto the floor. No, this couldn't be happening. Not again. Not after everything. His hands shook as he unlocked the phone. She'd given him her password months ago, part of her transparency commitment. He navigated to the messages, and with each swipe, each read receipt, each emoji, his heart broke a little more. The messages went back 6 weeks. 6 weeks of lies while she'd looked him in the eyes and sworn she was different now. Jay was apparently Jake, her yoga instructor. The messages were intimate, flirtatious, explicit. They'd been meeting at his apartment twice a week, supposedly during her therapy sessions. Marcus felt nauseous. The therapy sessions. She'd even weaponized therapy, the one thing that had given him hope they could heal, as a cover for another affair. He scrolled further back, his horror mounting. There were messages from Derek too, from just 2 months ago. "I miss you. Just one more time." Sarah's response, "I can't, I'm trying to fix things with them." But then, a week later, "Okay, but this is really the last time." It had never ended. While they'd been in couples counseling, while she'd cried in his arms and promised to be better, while he'd been fighting through his pain to trust her again, she'd been cheating the entire time. Perhaps with Derek, definitely with Jake, maybe others he hadn't discovered yet. The bedroom door creaked. "Hey, I'm back early." Sarah stopped when she saw Marcus standing in the laundry room, her phone in his hand, his face a mask of devastation and rage. "Marcus." Her voice was small, already knowing. Her eyes dropped to the phone, and he watched the color drain from her face. "Yoga," he said, his voice eerily calm. "You told me yoga was helping you find inner peace. Was Jake helping you find that peace, Sarah? Was Derek?" "I can explain." "Explain." Marcus laughed, a bitter sound that cut through the air like broken glass. "Explain what?" "That you've been lying to me for months. That while I was in therapy, pouring my heart out, trying to understand what I did wrong, trying to trust you again, you were fucking your yoga instructor." "Please, Marcus, just listen." "I did listen," he roared, all the calm evaporating. "I listened when you cried about how sorry you were. I listened when you promised you'd changed. I listened to you defend me to your friends, and I actually believed it meant something." Sarah's face crumpled. "It did mean something. I meant every word of that. I do love you. You love me." Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper, which was somehow more frightening than his shout. "You have a funny way of showing it. Tell me something, Sarah. That night when I overheard you on the phone, when you talked about how rare I was, how I'm home, were you planning to see Derek the next day? Or was that a Jake day?" She reached for him, but he stepped back as if burned. Don't touch me. Don't come near me." "Marcus, I'm sick," Sarah said desperately. "I'm addicted to the validation, the attention. My therapist says." "Your therapist doesn't know you were lying about even going to therapy." Marcus interrupted. "Was any of it real? The counseling, the job change, the vulnerability, was any of it actually real?" "The feelings were real," Sarah insisted. "My love for you is real. I'm broken, Marcus. I need help." "You're not broken," Marcus said coldly. "You're a liar. You're a cheater. And you're not my problem anymore." He pulled out his phone and made a call. Brad? Yeah, it's Marcus. Is that attorney appointment still available? Tomorrow morning? Perfect. I'll be there. Sarah sank to the floor, sobbing. Please, please don't leave me. I'll go to rehab. I'll do anything. There is nothing you can do, Marcus said, his voice devoid of emotion now. Numbness had set in, a protective shell around his shattered heart. I gave you everything, Sarah. I gave you forgiveness when I shouldn't have. I gave you trust when you didn't deserve it. I gave you my love, my loyalty, my faith in us. And you spat on all of it. Repeatedly. He walked past her to their bedroom and pulled out a duffel bag, began throwing clothes into it mechanically. Sarah followed, still crying, still pleading, words tumbling out in a desperate stream. Promises of change, explanations about childhood trauma, claims of sex addiction, anything to make him stay. Marcus zipped the bag and turned to face her one last time. The woman he'd married, the woman he'd loved for over a decade, looked small and pathetic on the floor, mascara running down her face. He felt nothing but cold emptiness. I forgave you once, he said quietly. I believed in you, in us, in the possibility of redemption. That was my mistake. You're not a person who made a terrible mistake, Sarah. You're a person who keeps making the same choice over and over while lying about it. And I'm done being your fool. Marcus, please. Goodbye, Sarah. He walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, past the living room where they'd laughed together just yesterday, past the kitchen where they'd cooked breakfast that morning, past all the memories and ghosts of a life that had been built on sand. He didn't look back. Marcus spent that first night in a hotel, lying awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling as his mind replayed every moment of the past 7 months on an endless loop. Each memory was now poisoned, every tender moment, every breakthrough in counseling, every time she'd sworn she'd changed. All of it had been a performance, a carefully constructed lie designed to keep him trapped while she continued to betray him. The devastation was different this time. The first affair had been a shock, a sudden violent rupture. This was more insidious, the slow realization that he'd been willfully deceived by someone he'd been working so hard to trust again. The humiliation cut deeper because he'd chosen to believe her. He'd cancelled divorce proceedings, defended his decision to give her another chance to his skeptical friends and family, and thrown himself into the hard work of forgiveness. And all of it had been for nothing. Sunday morning, Marcus met with his friend David for coffee. David took one look at his face and knew something terrible had happened. She did it again, didn't she? David asked quietly. Marcus nodded, unable to speak for a moment. When he finally found his voice, he told David everything. The messages, the lies, the revelation that the affair had never really ended. David listened without interruption, his jaw clenching tighter with each detail. I'm so sorry, man, David said when Marcus finished. For what it's worth, we all wanted to believe she'd changed. We wanted it for you. Did you though? Marcus asked bitterly. Or did everyone think I was being an idiot? We thought you were being someone who loved his wife, David replied. There's no shame in that. The shame is all hers. Monday morning came too quickly. Marcus sat in Brad Morrison's office, the same divorce attorney he'd cancelled on 7 months ago, and signed the papers he'd once been too hopeful to sign. Brad, a weathered man in his 60s who'd seen countless marriages dissolve, was surprisingly gentle. I'm including an infidelity clause, Brad explained. Given the documented pattern of repeated affairs, we can push for a favorable settlement. You'll keep the house, most of the assets. She forfeited her right to claim hardship when she chose to betray you repeatedly. Marcus just nodded. He didn't care about the house or the money. He just wanted it over. Sarah's lawyer contacted them by Wednesday. She wanted to talk, wanted to negotiate, wanted one more chance to explain. Marcus refused all contact. He communicated only through Brad, each cold, legal exchange another door closing on a life he'd once cherished. His family rallied around him. His mother arrived with casseroles and fierce hugs. His sister, Rachel, showed up with moving boxes and a truck, helping him pack up his belongings from the home he'd shared with Sarah. Through it all, Sarah sent texts, desperate, pleading messages that ranged from genuine remorse to angry accusations. "You're abandoning me when I need help," one text read.
"I'm sick, Marcus."
"I have a problem. Where's your compassion?" Rachel saw it over his shoulder and snorted. "The audacity. She cheats on you multiple times, lies for months, and she's mad you won't play therapist." Marcus blocked her number, then her email, then all her social media accounts. He wasn't cruel about it, he simply erected walls that should have been built months ago. Work became his refuge. He threw himself into projects, staying late, volunteering for the difficult assignments no one else wanted. His boss, concerned about his sudden intensity, called him in for a conversation. "Marcus, I appreciate the dedication, but you look terrible. Are you okay?" "Divorce," Marcus said simply. "Keeping busy helps." His boss nodded understandingly. "Take the time you need. We're here for you." But Marcus didn't want sympathy. He wanted numbness, wanted to feel nothing, wanted to erase the past decade and start fresh as if Sarah had never existed. Unfortunately, healing didn't work that way. At night, alone in his new apartment, the pain would ambush him, grief and rage and humiliation all tangled together into something that felt like it would crush him. He started seeing a therapist of his own, Dr. Raymond Park, a calm man who didn't offer platitudes or easy answers. "You're grieving," Dr. Park explained. "Not just the loss of your marriage, but the loss of who you thought you were married to. You're grieving the future you planned, the trust you extended, the forgiveness you gave. That's real loss, Marcus. Don't minimize it." "I feel like an idiot," Marcus admitted. "Everyone probably thinks I'm pathetic for taking her back." "Do you think you're pathetic?" Marcus considered this. "No. I think I'm someone who believed in redemption. I think I'm someone who fought for his marriage. That doesn't make me weak. It makes me human." "Exactly," Dr. Park said. "You acted with integrity. Sarah didn't. Her choices are not a reflection of your worth." 6 weeks after moving out, Marcus received a call from Sarah's friend, Jennifer, one of the women from that video call he'd overheard months ago. "I know I have no right to ask," Jennifer began, "but I'm worried about Sarah. She's not doing well. She's been calling all of us, saying she made the biggest mistake of her life, that she needs you." "Jennifer," Marcus interrupted gently but firmly, "Sarah needs professional help, not me. I can't save her. I couldn't even when I was trying. She made her choices, repeatedly, knowing the consequences. I'm sorry she's hurting, but that's no longer my responsibility." "I understand," Jennifer said quietly. "For what it's worth, she really did love you. I think she just loved herself more." After hanging up, Marcus sat with that thought. Sarah had loved him, he believed that. But her love was selfish, conditional, and ultimately destructive. It wasn't the kind of love that sustained a marriage. It was the kind that poisoned it slowly until nothing remained but resentment and regret. The divorce papers arrived 3 months after he'd signed them. Marcus looked at the official decree, the legal end of his marriage, and felt relief. Underneath the sadness and anger was a surprising sense of freedom. He was no longer tied to Sarah's chaos, no longer responsible for monitoring her phone or wondering if she was telling the truth. He was just Marcus again, not Marcus the betrayed husband, not Marcus the fool who took her back, just Marcus. That weekend, David invited him to a party. Marcus almost declined, not feeling social, but forced himself to go. He needed to start living again, not just existing. At the party, surrounded by laughter and music and people who had no idea about his failed marriage, Marcus felt the first stirrings of something like hope. He wasn't whole yet. The scars were still fresh, the trust issues real. But he was healing. Slowly, painfully, imperfectly, but healing nonetheless. And for the first time in a year, that felt like enough. 8 months after the divorce was finalized, Marcus stood in his new apartment. Not the temporary place he'd first fled to, but a real home he'd chosen deliberately. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Modern furniture he'd picked himself. Artwork that reflected his taste, not compromises made for someone else. It was smaller than the house he'd shared with Sarah, but it was entirely his, and that made it perfect. He'd changed in those months. The haunted look in his eyes had faded, replaced by something steadier, wiser. Dr. Park had helped him understand that his capacity for forgiveness wasn't a weakness, it was a strength that Sarah had exploited. The difference now was that Marcus had learned to extend that compassion to himself too. "You gave your marriage everything you had," Dr. Park had said during their final session. "That's admirable. But you also learned when to walk away. That's wisdom." Marcus had started dating again, cautiously. A few coffee dates, nothing serious. He wasn't ready for serious, and he was honest about that. The women appreciated his straightforwardness. One of them, a colleague named Allison from a different department, had become a genuine friend. They'd grab lunch, talk about work, carefully navigate the space between friendship and something more. "I'm not ready," Marcus had told her honestly after their fourth lunch together felt suspiciously like a date. "I want to be, but I'm not there yet." "I know," Allison had replied with a gentle smile. "Believe it or not, I'm okay with that. I like spending time with you, Marcus. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people getting to know each other." That had felt safe, healthy, like the foundation of something that could be real when he was ready. Meanwhile, Sarah's life had unraveled spectacularly. Marcus heard about it through mutual friends who felt he should know. She'd lost her job after showing up drunk repeatedly, had cycled through 2 more brief relationships that ended badly, and had finally checked herself into a rehabilitation facility that treated both substance abuse and behavioral addictions. Jennifer called him one evening. "She's doing the work this time," she reported. "Real work. No excuses, no deflecting. She asked me to tell you she understands why you left, and she doesn't expect anything from you. She just wanted you to know she's finally getting real help." "I hope she finds peace," Marcus said, and meant it. The anger had faded months ago, leaving only a distant sadness for who Sarah might have been if she confronted her demons before destroying their marriage. "But that's her journey now, not mine." "I know," Jennifer said. "You're doing well? I heard you got promoted." "Senior Director," Marcus confirmed. "They announced it last week." "Marcus, I just want to say, we all admired how you handled everything. You gave her every chance, and when she blew them all, you walked away with dignity. That's rare." After the call, Marcus poured himself a glass of wine and stepped onto his balcony. The city stretched out before him, lights twinkling in the darkness. A year ago, he'd been sitting in a car outside his house, divorce papers in his pocket, listening to his wife defend him to her friends. That moment had changed everything, had given him hope that proved false, had led to months of additional pain, had taught him the difference between someone who talks about change and someone who actually changes. He didn't regret giving Sarah that second chance. The regret would have been worse, always wondering what if, always carrying the guilt of not trying hard enough. Now he knew. He'd given it everything, and she'd chosen betrayal anyway. That knowledge hurt, but it also freed him. His phone buzzed. A text from Allison, "Thinking about you. Hope you're having a good evening. No need to respond, just wanted you to know." Marcus smiled. Simple. Kind.
No hidden agenda.
He texted back, "Thank you. That means more than you know. Coffee tomorrow." It's a date. Well, a friendly coffee. You know what I mean. He did know. And in 6 months or a year, when his heart had healed enough, maybe those friendly coffees would become actual dates. Maybe they wouldn't. Either way, Marcus was learning to be okay with uncertainty, to trust his judgment again, to believe that being hurt didn't mean he had to spend his life hiding from connection. The following week, Marcus was cleaning out old files from his desk when he found them, the original divorce papers he'd prepared almost a year and a half ago. He unfolded them slowly, reading his own signature that had never been submitted, seeing the date that marked the beginning of 7 months of false hope. He didn't feel anger anymore looking at them. Instead, he felt something like gratitude. Those months, painful as they were, had taught him invaluable lessons about himself. About his capacity for forgiveness, yes, but also about his limits. About the importance of actions over words. About the difference between loving someone and losing yourself in the process. Marcus took the papers to his shredder and watched them turn to confetti. The symbolic gesture felt appropriate, destroying the document that represented his lowest point, his moment of greatest doubt. His phone rang. His sister Rachel. "Hey, are you coming to Mom's birthday dinner Saturday? I'm making my famous lasagna." "Wouldn't miss it," Marcus replied, feeling the warmth of family, of people who'd supported him through his darkest period. "Need me to bring anything?" "Just yourself. Oh, and Allison if you want to bring her. No pressure though." Marcus considered this. Introducing someone to his family felt significant. But Allison had been a steady presence in his healing journey. Maybe it was time to acknowledge that, even if he wasn't ready to define it. "I'll ask her," he said. That Saturday, Marcus showed up to his mother's house with Allison beside him and a bottle of wine in his hand. His family welcomed her warmly, and over lasagna and laughter, Marcus realized something profound. He was happy. Not the naive happiness of his early marriage, not the desperate hope of his reconciliation attempt, but something deeper and more resilient. He was happy in a way that came from knowing himself, from surviving devastation and choosing to rebuild. After dinner, his mother pulled him aside. "You look good, sweetheart. Really good. Your eyes have light in them again." "I feel good, Mom," Marcus replied honestly. "It took a while, but I got there." "I'm proud of you," she said, squeezing his hand. "You handled an impossible situation with grace. Your father would have been proud too." That night, driving Allison home, Marcus felt her hand rest gently on his arm. "Thank you for including me tonight," she said. "Your family is wonderful." "Thank you for coming," Marcus replied. "I know I've been cautious, maybe frustratingly so." "Stop," Allison interrupted gently. "You've been exactly what you needed to be. Honest. Self-aware. Present. Those are good things, Marcus. Really good things." He walked her to her door, and for the first time since his divorce, Marcus initiated a kiss. It was gentle, tentative, full of possibility rather than desperation. When they pulled apart, Allison was smiling. "Good night, Marcus," she whispered. "Good night." Driving home, Marcus thought about the journey that had brought him here. The betrayal, the false hope, the second devastating discovery, the painful process of letting go. Each step had been necessary, had shaped him into someone stronger, wiser, more discerning. He thought about Sarah, hoping she was finding her own path to healing, but knowing that her story was separate from his now. She'd made her choices. He'd made his. They'd both have to live with the consequences. And Marcus's consequence was this: a new life built on authentic foundations, relationships based on trust and honesty, and the quiet confidence of someone who'd survived his worst nightmare and emerged intact on the other side. He pulled into his parking garage and rode the elevator up to his apartment. The space welcomed him, comfortable, peaceful, entirely his own. He poured himself a nightcap and stood at his window, looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow he had a meeting about a new project at work. Lunch plans with David. Maybe another coffee with Allison during the week. Simple things. Good things. Real things. Marcus raised his glass to his reflection in the window. "To second chances," he said quietly. "Not for people who squander them, but for ourselves, the chance to choose better, love smarter, and build something worth keeping." He sipped his drink, set it down, and went to bed. For the first time in nearly 2 years, Marcus fell asleep without the weight of betrayal crushing his chest, without wondering if he was being lied to, without questioning his worth. He fell asleep as someone who'd learned that walking away from toxic love wasn't giving up, it was choosing himself. And that choice, difficult as it had been, had saved his life. The story of Marcus and Sarah was over. But Marcus's story, the one about healing, growth, and learning to trust again, was just beginning. And this time, he was writing it himself.